There we
Cool, we're
go.
live. All right, so
Hello, hello.
welcome to episode 3 of the Salience Project. So just a reminder, salience, also called saliency, is a characteristic or state referring to the ability to stand out from one's neighbors. Salience detection is considered to be a key attentional mechanism that facilitates learning and survival by enabling organisms to focus their limited perceptual and cognitive resources on most pertinent subsets of available sensory data. Salience detection is studied by the context of the mechanisms that operate in our sensory system. What salient can be influenced by training, for example, humans, subjects can be salient by training in particular environments. What attention deployment is driven by salient stimuli. Oh no, when attention deployment is driven by salient stimuli, it is considered to be bottom up or memory free and reactive. Conversely, attention can also be guided by top down, memory dependent, and anticipatory mechanisms, such as when you are looking ahead of a moving object or sideways before crossing the street. Humans and other animals have difficulty paying attention to more than one stimuli at a time. So they are faced with many challenges in continuously integrating and prioritizing different bottom-up and top-down influences. So I just wanted to read that because I think it's very important that we continue to define salience for our listeners and for people that are going to be watching this. And in particular, I wanted to highlight the bottom-up or unconscious habits versus top-down or conscious habits. So bottom up is going to be your breathing, your ability to move around the world, like unconsciously, just behaviors, taking in sensory information. I look outside and the grass is green. I don't have to think about that. And then top down salience would be like this morning, I had to actively make my bullet coffee, which has MCT powder. It has collagen. It has Himalayan salt. It has organic coffee. And then I think I put a little bit of ghee in there just for the morning. So that is versus like top down salience where I had to actually consciously make my coffee versus bottom up, which is just taking in sensory information from the outside world and then processing it accordingly. The reason why this is important is because sometimes our sensory data mechanisms are in autopilot subconsciously, and then other times it's good to have conscious action or conscious behavior. And this is very important when you want to think about making better choices in life or optimizing for a certain thing. It's going to require a lot more top-down salience than bottom-up salience. But eventually, if you chart that over time, what's going to happen is you're going to get to a cross point where your top-down conscious behavior will become a bottom-up unconscious habit. And that is where you can really reap the benefits of, actively moving consciously through the world and doing things repetitively over time so that they can become unconscious habits. And that leads me into the reward circuitry. So
So
Les,
before you go into that, so the first thing you said about saliency, the ability to stand out from its neighbors. Okay, so that made me just think about a couple of things, like because, I mean, initially it's about my peers, standing out among my peers, among the people of the population of the world, but then it could also mean like we have there is an infinite number of ourselves from right now, from this very point, right? And I can make the choice to drink water, and if I don't make that choice to drink water right now, then in a couple hours I'll feel dehydrated, and that's one version of myself, right? And then, or if I made the choice to drink water right now, then I wouldn't feel dehydrated, or so what I'm saying is it gets into making those conscious decisions that gets us to stand out from ourselves in our infinite possibilities of what we could be. It's like I make the decision to take some drug, and that affects my next decision, and so down the road, I am a different version of myself. And then so our goal with the Salience project is to find the decisions, the habits, the conscious and subconscious thoughts and ideas that are on our minds, and that leads us to our greatest version of ourselves. So we stand out amongst ourselves and amongst all the versions that we could be, we could have been, or that we will be.
Oh
What do you
yeah,
think about that?
I like that wrap up. I think it's a great, understanding of you're not only competing against those around you, or I wouldn't even say you're competing. You're not only like taking in information from those around you, but you're also like trying to mold yourself. And like you're waking up each day and making conscious choices to separate yourself from the person you don't want to be and getting closer to the version of yourself that you want to be. And doing that through creating like unconscious habits that are going to project you and traject you into the life that you want to have. Right.
And that, like you said, that comes through conscious effort in the beginning. If you don't have those habits already, those unconscious habits already built, there has to be a lot of deliberate action towards taking these conscious habits and ideas and thoughts and things we want to be and turning them into our subconscious. And
yeah. So if you just want to cover really quickly the reward circuitry, so that we can talk about that a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and do something really quick. But
yeah, you're good. So in terms of the reward pathway or the motivation craving pathway, dopamine is heavily involved, and it used to believe that it was the like dopamine was released when you achieve the reward, but research shows that dopamine is actually like released in anticipation of the reward. So it's like I am going like more dopamine release is released as I keep training hard and I expect to have a good performance. And then the good performance doesn't necessarily, and I still don't know this science where I could confidently talk about it in that sense, but I know that it's not as heavily believed that dopamine is released when you actually achieve the reward. And so, it's if we think of it in terms of motivation and drive, craving to go get that reward, to go get that achievement, then I think it helps give us a better understanding of how to use it, how to control it in terms of addictive behaviors, in terms of turning behaviors that maybe you at once didn't really want to do, but you now realize how important it is to your performance, to your life. Where before the podcast started, Alec and I were discussing working out and how there's a lot of days where we don't want to work out and we don't feel like it, but you do it anyways because we know that in terms of performance for our athletic endeavors, it's going to pay off, and we will reap the benefits of that work in the long run. And we are talking about does our nervous system does our those pathways in reward, in motivation, in drive, does that is that all related to that idea of I don't want to work out today, but I know that if I go work out, I'm going to perform better in the long run. And I mean, that has a lot to do with the neuroscience, and I'm going to continue doing more research so I have a better background on it in the future.
Yeah. I mean, it's very important that we understand the reward circuitry and we understand the benefits of controlling it. For example, like a bottom-up salience behavior would be like me getting hungry, right? Like that is a bottom-up, unconscious, uncontrollable behavior that my body is going to send signals to my brain to then get me, hey, understanding, hey, you got to go seek food. So then dopamine is going to be released when I'm in that mode of going and seeking food. And then eventually when I do eat that food, another dose of dopamine would be released to be like, hey, good job, right? And so it's reinforcing that behavior. But where the reward circuitry can get hijacked is if I want tasty, fat, salty, caloric heavy food, that's not necessarily going to benefit me in the long run, this is where that top down salient behavior can now come in and play a huge role in my ability to be healthy, right? If I'm in the car coming back from the gym and I want a meal, I can easily stop at McDonald's or In-N-Out Burger or whatever fast food joint you want, and get that instant dopamine reward
Yeah, that dopamine
pathway,
hit.
right? As opposed to me knowing that I just worked out, I have to control myself. I need to go home. I have food in the fridge. It's healthy. It's good. It's going to be just as beneficial as to me in the long run. That's where I have to apply that top-down conscious habit of I'm not going to go get this because I have this ability to go make this. And what that's doing is you're increasing the baseline of your overall ability to control yourself, right?
Yeah,
And so when you're
absolutely.
exposed to situations where you can easily succumb to the addiction behavior, addiction pattern, right? You're going to have the much more wherewithal and control to resist. And using mindfulness and discipline, you're going to be able to make better choices overall. And I think
Agreed.
that's a huge highlight that we're trying to make this project about, is we want people to make better choices for themselves. We
And
want
I
people.
think if we can help them, sorry to interrupt,
You're good.
but I think if we can help them understand this pain pleasure balance, and when I say pain, I don't just mean physical pain, like the suffrage, like you you you're hungry and you resisting the urge to go get fast food and just stop and fill yourself up, right? You resisting that urge and going to and waiting till you get home and eating healthy. Maybe it's not something you're looking forward to. That is pain, like that, like that is a pain, and not the typical sense that we think of it, right? And then so there's this pain pleasure balance where when we do things that pleasure ourselves more, we actually end up lowering our baseline dopamine levels, right? So it's
Control.
like, let's say I go get McDonald's and that dopamine hit is like yay high. The next time I go do that, it's going to be maybe yay high. And then the next time that hit is going to come up, but it's not going to come up as high. And then the the brain wants to maintain homeostasis, wants to maintain a balance, right? And then so when you hit those high inflection points of dopamine, the brain is going to counterbalance that by low inflection points of pain and suffering. And you can think of that as the craving, like when you go eat McDonald's and you want more of it. You eat that piece of candy and you want more of it. That is the craving you can think of as pain, because you want more. Your body's like, give me more. I'm not functioning right. I need more of it so that way I feel better. And then so the more you chase pleasure, the worse you're going to feel overall. And then like when we have low levels of dopamine, what's the word? And oh gosh, anendoria, or but just like lack of pleasure, like where things just don't feel good anymore, like things that used to make me happy, they don't really make me happy or make me feel good. And that happens when we chase too much pleasure and don't chase enough pain. And then so I think where the whole conversation that Alec and I had about working out and how we don't really want to all the time, we're chasing that pain because we know that the scale is going to tip back towards the pleasure side, and we're going to feel better about ourselves at the end of the workout.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, when you do put yourself through discipline and you do make the decisions for the long run, you moderate your dopamine releases, because it's too in this world that's just like I can hop on my phone and see somebody liked my picture or commented on it, and that would release a hit of dopamine. And it's like we're always getting dopamine hits all day every day if we're not paying attention to it and if we're not realizing that it's actually happening. And then we wonder why we're sad all the time or in a depressive state of
Absolutely.
life. And I think we're trying to just help everybody understand that this balance, if you can learn to take control of this balance through this top down conscious salient effort, it can become subconscious. Because now I don't really ever think about like forcing myself to go to the gym. I just go to the gym. Like You know, like it's just a habit. Like
It's your
there's days
lifestyle,
where
right?
it's a lifestyle, and it's like it's not. It's part of my subconscious is like going to work out, going to do something active throughout my day, and I think that has allowed me to find more pleasure in life, and
Absolutely.
just enjoy it a little bit more because it's not always pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. It's actually
Yeah.
more discipline, suffrage, trying to grow, trying to become the best, and then that allows me to appreciate the little things in life a little bit more.
Right. And I think it's important for us to realize the evolutionary biology behind all of this, right? Like our ancestors had these pathways built up for survival mechanisms, right? If I do this and I run away from the tiger and I survive, I'm in the tree, I feel good, right? Like I'm like, whoo, like, yeah, what an exhilaration. Like that's, and so evolutionary biology has pushed us to have very addictive behaviors
I
because
think it's kind of adaptive in a way, no? Because of
absolutely.
like complacency. Because like without it, like without that lowering of dopamine, like we would just be okay with where our lives are at right now.
Yeah,
But
I would
because,
be, I
right?
would see the tiger, and instead of running away, I'd be like, oh, sweet, there's a tiger, and then I'd be getting eaten, and I'd be like, oh, shoot, like, dude, I'm getting eaten, damn,
Yeah.
and it's just
And
like, sweet, I hope you enjoy me, dude. Like, everything would just be so melancholy that there would be no excitement and sadness, and like we talk about these states of being as like understanding that you're going to have pain and suffering in your life is very important because if you're constantly seeking happiness, 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 when you're surrounded by pain and suffering, you're not going to know how to move through it, right?
yeah.
And that's huge. Just quickly, I want to dovetail on that point that you were talking about. If you ever catch yourself bored and the first thing you do is grab your phone and start scrolling, that's a dopaminergic pattern of behavior where you're trying to seek pleasure instantly. And in that moment, you don't even think about it. In that moment, it's just there and it feels good. Whatever you're
Yeah.
scrolling,
You
you're
come to
entertained,
like 10 minutes later, and you're like, "Oh
right?
shit!
10 minutes
Like,
later,
how
and you're
long have
like,
I
shit,
been
I just
scrolling?"
wasted 10 minutes of my
An
life.
hour. Some people an hour.
Right.
You know,
And,
right?
and then that becomes a pattern, and 10 minutes turns into an hour turns into 2 hours, and then you're like wasting time. And now the low inflection point is, look what I just did with myself. Look how I'm not online. Look how, people don't like me. I'm lonely, blah, blah, blah. I'm scrolling on my phone. I have all these thoughts come in our head because your brain is
Yeah.
constantly like understanding
Well, yeah.
the balance of things, right? And so I think we have to understand the addiction versus health reward circuitry with dopamine, serotonin, and all these neurochemicals. And then we also have to understand that the conscious bottom up sovereignty, like if we get to a bottom up sovereignty state where now we have control, or top down sovereignty state where now we have control, now we're in charge and we can orient our behaviors and decisions towards things that are beneficial long term. And we're okay with not having the instant reward. Right. And so that's kind of what you were talking about when we're raising the baseline. We're raising that time between behavior and reward. And by increasing that over time, I'm now able to make longer term projections. I can take risk on long term. I can feel more comfortable doing things that are going to put me 10, 15 years in the future. For example, buying a home or investing, right? People who
Yeah.
invest, day
More
traders,
motivation.
right? People who are day
Do those
traders,
things.
they love that instant dopamine. Yeah, I made that win, blah, 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 blah. People who are investors are able to sit back and let the market take its toll. And I think there's a huge difference there.
I would
We
agree.
want to
Yeah.
teach you to invest
That's
in
like
yourself.
gambling, basically.
Right, exactly.
That's
We don't
why,
want to
like,
teach you to day trade
that
with your life.
anticipation of winning. You're like, yeah. No matter even if you lose or you win, like you still like there's still that anticipation that I could win on the next one.
And the
I
reason
could win on the
why
next one.
like gambling is so addictive is because it's all instant. Within seconds whether you've won or lost, right? And as opposed with investing, like I might start a business that may not reap the benefits for 5, 10, 15 years. But when I do hit that mode of like looking at the balance sheets and realizing, holy crap, we just did 50 million in revenue this year. Whoa.
And I like that you're using investing as an analogy, because I mean, essentially, all we want people to do is to learn the value of investing in themselves. Because, like you said, like, there's no transactable value when you invest in yourself. It's not like I'm reading all this, we're having these discussions, and then now in an hour I'm going to be able to make $100 more or $1 million from it. But the more I invest in myself, in 5, 10, 15 years, I'll be able to see, like, dang, like, okay, because I was so disciplined in certain things and I tried to optimize for certain things, that it's actually allowed me to put myself in opportunities to make more money, to have a transactable value kind of thing.
Right.
So it's like
Yeah.
investing in yourself through what we're trying to share with everyone, is just like kind of the whole purpose is, we want you to invest in you. And wholly, and you should invest in yourself more than any stock market, anybody else. You should definitely be trying to figure out ways in how you can invest
For
in
sure.
yourself.
And I think, one of the big uh, pointers that we've talked about with people of how they want to maximize or optimize their lives, and you know, obviously this is a conversation that we've been having over time because we're trying to optimize our own lives. I think when it comes down to decision making, it's going to become an unconscious habit to make better decisions because I was able to focus for a short period of time on doing something that drives me to make a better decision, right? So whether that's time management or sleep or body optimization or ability to focus, have higher levels of excitement or understanding how to move through forms of sadness, because I trained, and we talked about in that salience, like we're taking in sensory information and we're training ourselves to become better, right? Now, when I'm faced with those obstacles, I'm going to be able to unconsciously not even think and have the right decision, right? And trust myself.
Yeah.
And that's so important
Trust yourself.
because now I'm able to move without any doubt in my mind that I'm making the right decision at the right time and it's going to put me on the right path. And understanding how to correct those errors long term and not make as many errors over time will put you in a place far beyond those average people who are around you.
And something I want to make sure we constantly reiterate to our audience and to our customers and to ourselves is that, like, it's not that we want to avoid failure or errors because it's like we're scared. We should actually put ourselves out there and be willing to make more errors, and the more often we do that, then the less often over time that we will actually make errors,
Exactly.
and more detrimental errors, right? And our nervous system learns through failure, learns through errors. That is what helps us learn to, or helps us figure out what to focus on when we are learning a skill, a behavior, cognitive, motor, anything. That error, that failure points us in the direction, okay, I messed this up because of this. I need to make sure I focus on this time. And we should never be scared of failure. We should actually welcome it, but you still don't want to make it. You want to find the correct path, but it's definitely something that we have to get over, like that fear of failure, which is so often, and it's like when it comes to things like investing money, it's like, I mean, when you mess up, like, you're losing good hard-earned money that you might not have anymore. You have to be willing to let that go a little bit, and have faith in who you are. And if you've invested in yourself properly, then you should have that faith in yourself, that trust that even if I do make this mistake, I'm still going to be able to rebound and keep going and going, and it's not going to slow me down.
Absolutely. And that points back to a huge piece that we've been talking about over these past few conversations, which is identity. Like having trust in your identity and understanding, like being able to project yourself out 30, 40 years and understand the person that you want to be and the lifestyle you want to have and the things that you want to surround yourself with, and having the vision to be able to tangibly understand that, and then how you want to use that identity to serve others is how you can create a mission in your life. Right?
Yeah, I agree, and I like that because I actually wrote this down last night. I think that kind of touches so I kind of took off what you were telling me the other day. How you have you write like a topic, right, and then you kind of have a journal piece about it, right? So I picked vision, just like what a vision is, and I was like, I don't think you can consciously choose what you see in your vision. The constant pursuit of certain traits and passions will shape your vision into itself subconsciously. I see my vision, but the more I try to explain it and reach for it, the cloudier it gets. When I keep my head down, chop wood, carry water, only then does it get clear. So it's like the more that I put things into positive habits into my subconscious, where I'm at the gym, I'm studying, I'm learning new training drills, new ways to coach, new ways to interact with my clients, just constantly just trying to improve, and that's all into my subconscious. The more my vision gets clear, and then when I try to think about it and try to think about conscious decisions that I could be making to get there, it's like it seems more out of reach to me, in a way.
Here's a good way to like understand that, and the reason why that happens is because I mean, you just like sparked a huge thought in my mind. The only thing that is constant in your vision in the future is you. That's the only thing that's promised. That's the only thing that's ever going to be there, right?
100%.
The car, the house, the things that you want, the things that you want to be doing, that's not promised. But the only thing that's promised and that's going to be there in the future, 50 years, 30 years, 60 years from now, is you. So having the instant, dude, I'm getting chills. Having the instant understanding of how you want to move in the world today, that's going to make you who you want to be in the future, is the superpower. That's like the crystal ball, right? That everybody is seeking. And when you are able to do that and you set out on a mission to do things and challenge yourself and be tested and be, the best version of yourself through these environments, through these challenges that we consciously decide on, right? That's where the habit forming, the daily scorecards, the unconscious behaviors all will pay off. And I think that's where we can really optimize in ourselves, is because we're betting on ourselves to be able to succeed in these moments, so that when we're tested in the future, we have this as like the baseline and we're constantly leveling up.
And
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%.
And that's the clarity. That's the clarity that you have, is you. Like Alexi,
and I can control me today, right now, and what I'm doing in this moment. I can't control 50 years. It's too late, or it's too early, I guess you would say, or too late in a way.
Too far ahead.
It's too far. It's like, but right now I can have these conversations with you about brain body optimization, so that way in 50 years I have a full bill of health. I'm not taking 30 different prescription drugs from the doctor just to stand up in the morning, and it's like these conscious efforts towards taking things from the conscious mind and putting it into the subconscious mind, so that way we don't have to waste energy on the decision making of, should I go to the gym today or should I journal today. It's like that's already there. Like, you already do that. It's Tuesday, it's back day, it's Thursday, it's leg day. It's like that's already there. You don't even have to think about that decision, and then that way that gives you more mental energy towards things that actually matter. Conversations with your neighbors, with your friends, with your family members, right? Because I mean, too many times that we're just like, we make too many decisions throughout the day, and then when it comes to things that actually matter in our lives, we're just not there. We're just not present, because we have no more capacity left for the day, left for the rest of our time, because we spent too much time meddling around in our day to day.
Absolutely.
And we're just trying to create a blueprint for you to create, like a blueprint for you to create for yourself, and what you and how you envision yourself being. So, and then here's what you should try to do every day. So that way you can be there in 20 years, in 30 years, in 5 years, in 1 year, you know. And it's about starting small and simple. And that's why we started with identity, and then that's why we're having this kind of conversation today, which isn't necessarily about one specific topic, but it's about like trying to just create an understanding of the mechanisms that it takes to reach the goals and the visions that you have for your life, and
Absolutely.
to have that mission. And um, and I think after you find your identity, your next endeavor should be to put a mission that aligns with that identity, because that mission, like, without a mission, none of this stuff matters, like none of keeping track of a scorecard doesn't matter if you have no mission for it. It's like, for me, like, I want to be able to provide the greatest version of myself to my clients, to my friends, to people seeking advice, so that they can become their greatest version of themselves. And because that's my mission, then that motivates me to track things that optimize my mental clarity, taking creatine, taking EPA fish oil, like eating better, working out at certain times, getting light viewing in the morning. These things allow me to be at my best for my clients, so that I can inspire them, motivate them to be their best. And because
For
that's my
sure.
mission, it helps me be more disciplined in this kind of journaling, tracking these certain metrics that you and I have been tracking.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a great theme there, and that is habit forming. You know, these we're doing these conscious behaviors to form unconscious habits, right? So, for example, first I'm going to go over the 4 keys of habit forming, and then we'll highlight 2 themes that go with them: grit and detachment from the ego, and then we'll move from there. So, the first key to a good habit, or the 4 keys, I should start there. The 4 keys to habit forming. The first one is make it obvious. The second one is make it attractive. The third one is make it easy. And the last one is make it satisfying. So, for example, if I were to take journaling as a habit that I wanted to build over time, a easy way to make it obvious would be to leave my journal on my nightstand, right, with the pen there. Put the journal there where it's in sight on the nightstand. I have to see it. Make it attractive. So before I go to bed, before I can sleep, I have to journal. That's where, like, if I don't do this, I don't get this, right? So that's where I have to make it attractive. If I want to go to sleep, I just have to write in my journal. Make it easy. Again, put it on the nightstand with the pen. Maybe I don't have to write. An easy way to make it easy, maybe I don't have to write 10 pages. Maybe I just have to write 5 sentences. And that's my minimum, right? So, for example, if I make it too tedious, too hard, where I have to write a page and a half or whatever, it's going to get boring. It's going to get unattractive. It's going to make it hard. I'm going to get bored, right? But if I just have to write at least 1 sentence, 5 sentences, put the date and a theme, done, right? Easy.
Even just like simple as one thought, like,
right.
and we'll get to that, but go ahead and finish real quick.
And then the last one is make it satisfying. So after I pick up my journal and I start writing, maybe I have, binaural beats playing in the background, or, a candle lit, or something.
Or that satisfaction can be delayed, where it's like, okay, I look back a month from now, or a month ago I started, and I look back, and it's like I can see where my thoughts were. That's interesting.
I like
That's
that
where
a
my
lot.
brain state was. And it's like, because it doesn't have to be instantaneous satisfaction or gratification, it's like, and that's what we're trying to aim for, is like you to start to learn to delay that gratification for yourself, so that way you can really learn how to take advantage of this dopaminergic pathway, because that is all what delaying gratification is like we talked about those peaks. The more you delay that, the less those peaks go lower and lower and lower as you pleasure yourself more. So it's like learning how to delay that gratification, that satisfaction is so important.
Yeah, that's
But
huge. And I really like the way you tied that into the topic of conversation today. Maybe every other day or every 10th day, I open my journal, and instead of having to write something, maybe I read something.
you read your past. I like that. Yeah,
You
you
know,
read your past. And
exactly.
that's
So,
easy and attractive because I definitely enjoy looking back at my journals from like 6 months ago, a year ago, and seeing what I was thinking and what I was writing down. That I actually would say I get a dopamine hit from that, and it is gratifying to see. To even if it was like a dark point, a dark day, a bad day, it's like still nice. Okay, I got through that day, and look, the next 5 days were better. And then how did I make that happen? Which is why we want to get into starting to track certain metrics,
so that we can
because
reprogram
you can
ourselves.
start to reprogram and just replicate. It's like, okay, I did this on that day, or okay, I did this for this whole week, and then on that Friday I felt terrible. Okay, what did I do that whole week before that could have led to that terrible day? Oh, I drank too much and then overslept and then didn't eat properly on Thursday. And then so now Friday I'm feeling the effects of that,
Right.
kind of thing. And it's like, okay, I can replicate that. But it doesn't start out like that, like you're saying, like it's got to be something that's easy and attractive. And taking, if somebody that wasn't on the same progression that you and I have been on, if they look at that spreadsheet, they're going to be like, oh my God, that's a lot. Like I was telling my dad about it. He's like, you can track all that, and I'm like, man, it's crazy. Like, cause if you would have asked me maybe a year ago, 2 years ago to track all that, I probably would have said the same thing. But I started journaling with one thought, one idea, a good thing and a bad thing of the day. And then as I kept being more consistent with it, I was able to add more to it over time. And then now, I mean, I write in my journal every morning, track certain things. I get onto like the computer and I go onto the spreadsheet and I track all those things. And now it's kind of subconscious. Like I woke up this morning and I was on the optimization chart before I really even realized that I was, and I was like putting in my time and my carbon dioxide discard rate. And it's like, but that only happened through persistent repetitions over time,
Right.
and missing days,
I was
and
about, yo, you
and
hit it
missing
on the
days,
head.
and
Yeah.
writing on it, and then writing about it, be like, dang, I missed the last 3 days. I kind of am upset with myself that I missed those 3 days. I'm going to be more disciplined now,
And
because it's not about.
that is the pain pleasure pathway, right? That is the release of like, hey, I consciously realized I made mistakes. Let's be better. Let's hold myself to a higher standard. Let's continue to push forward, and I'm not going to miss the next 5 days, right? And then making sure you hit that mark. Boom, boom, boom. And so that's an easy way for you to keep that scorecard, that internal scorecard with yourself, to keep progressing in the direction that you want to go. So just quickly, you wrote two notes on here about habit forming, and I just want you to cover them and your perspectives on them. So what did you mean when you said grit and then detach from the ego?
Okay, so like, I mean, like we were just talking about, like you miss days, like things happen, like you get busy, a friend calls and you go hang out with them for that day, and your whole routine schedule goes to shit. And it's like, and it's so easy to kind of let that keep going. It's like, oh, I missed today, I missed tomorrow, and then it's like, and then eventually you're a week out and you haven't been disciplined in whatever it is you're trying to be disciplined in. And it's like, it's grit. Like everybody wants these big sexy goals and like to be millionaires and have the cars and the wives and the sex in the successful business. And it's like, but to get there, it takes a lot of grit in the small details you do every day and taking care of those every single day. And they're not, it's dirty and it's hard work, and it's not flashy, it's not like. And that's why I had you, or I wanted you to explain the four characteristics of habit forming, was because like the words easy, attractive, satisfying, make it sound like it's going to be that way. But from experience, from both of us, we know that it's not that way. And that's why you want to try to make it as easy as you can and attractive as you can and as satisfying as you can, because we know that it takes a lot of grit to be able to stay disciplined in whatever it is that we want to do. Now,
For
you
sure.
and I have had an advantage in this kind of grit realm because we had a mission of being professional soccer players, or a mission of athletic excellence every time we stepped on the field, and we fell in love with the game of soccer. And from the time that we were young, our grit became subconscious for us. We realized that, like, if I want to play on Saturday, and I want to play the full 90 minutes on Saturday, I'm going to have to put in some work. I'm going to have to skip some outings with some friends. I'm going to have to train a little bit extra on my own. I'm going to have to skip a couple fast food meals and replace those with some high nutrient dense meals. Like, we've been doing that for as long as we can remember. But there's a lot of people that just haven't had a lifestyle like that. So for you
Absolutely.
and me, it's easy to talk about, and it's easy to put things into habit and change our habits because we know what grit is, and we know what that's all about. But a lot of people don't understand that, and they don't see it for themselves. And then I think that comes in, and I think you could tie that in with the ego, and like, you got to learn to detach yourself from the ego, where it's like, man, like, if I miss a few days of journaling, like, I do feel shit about myself. That's my ego. Like, whenever you feel embarrassed or about anything, like, that's your ego. And you have to be able to, like, okay, I want to detach myself from this, and be here. And it's like, for us in college, like, if we wanted to skip a party, people would make fun of us probably, and then so that's our ego feeling like attacked and embarrassed. And like, when you want to form good habits, you have to detach yourself from your ego, because if you let your ego dictate how you feel and your actions, and there's going to be times in your life where you don't do it, or you don't feel
You're not
like
going to
doing
make the right decision.
You're not going to make the right decision, and you have to be able to take that outer perspective, that outside perspective of yourself, and be like, man, like, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example where we can tie ego into the positive side of it, where it's like, I there's a dude next to me at the gym that works out, and he looks stronger and he's lifting heavier than me. And it's like, well, I feel like I could do that today, and then you start doing that. And then next thing you know, you get an injury, because you're pushing yourself too hard. And that's like, yeah, the working out is a good habit, but you have to detach yourself from the ego and, like, stop comparing yourself to others, and stop trying to compete against others. You're competing against yourself. And then defining what good competition is against yourself, and not beating yourself up when you do things, is super important, which is, I think, the underlying thing of the podcast is, like, we're trying to create that blueprint, trying to create that understanding of how to compete against yourself in a very healthy way.
I like that. Wow, I really do like that. I'm gonna have to come back and take notes on that bit, because that was really good. Okay, so let's take this conversation into what we're going to call the Daily Scorecard. And the reason why we chose these things is because, A, they're very easy to do, and we want everybody to be able to do this. And then B, because we know that there are health benefits emotionally, physically, and over time as well. Just building good habits and things that we can consciously understand as, hey, this is important, and here's why. So our scorecard,
and that's the big thing before you start, is we want to help you understand why we think this scorecard is valuable to you.
Right. On the scorecard, there's a total of 4 tasks, and the purpose of this scorecard is allow us to hone our identity. So keep that in mind when we go over each task. The first one is focused breathing for 10 minutes or non-sleep deep rest protocols for 10 minutes. And the purpose behind this, there's many scholarly papers as to the benefits of breathing. Obviously, if you don't breathe, you die. That's a no-brainer. And then non-sleep deep rest is very important because it helps the brain get into a state of delta and theta waves, which is actually calming, builds neuroplasticity, And it allows you, when you do these intention settings and affirmations, it allows it to actually integrate itself into your subconscious thoughts, as opposed to
It's
like,
the same. It's kind of the same thing as when in the slow wave sleep, right? And how
correct.
our brain kind of reconstructs itself, right? And we're kind of just like hijacking that earlier, so that way when we do go to sleep, it kind of starts integrating itself earlier, right?
Right.
Kind of
Yes.
idea.
There's a lot of sleep studies that have been done that actually point to sleep as a therapeutic mechanism to allow you to heal or allow you to, understand emotional chaos,
Yeah.
or deal with stress levels in the body. It's a way for your brain and body to kind of like shut off. But while you're shutting off, your brain is still functioning. And what it's
It's
doing,
more active in ways than when you're actually awake
it's
in
active in
certain
different
ways.
ways.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
that is the delta and theta waves have actually been proven to heal, internal traumas,
Yeah.
or to heal stress, or to heal, internal tensions that you're having. And so your
Or recover muscles from
or recover
workouts,
muscles and things like
or
that. And
learn
so
new skills. And like sleep is the great reset of, and the great, I don't know, starting point of becoming the greatest version of yourself. If you're not getting
absolutely.
proper sleep, you can't begin to join us on this journey. And that is why we have certain things in here with the NSDR, which helps you sleep, and with setting your internal clock, which Alec will get to in a little bit.
Yeah. So focused breathing, for me as a yogi and meditative practitioner, it's just very important that you take deep, full inhales through the nose, all the way through the diaphragm, which is considered the second heart. It actually is connected to the parasympathetic nervous system, which can ignite rest and
Both
digest,
parasympathetic and sympathetic
and
nervous system.
sympathetic. So it has rest and digest, and also alert and focused. So the reason why we want you to take 10 minutes of focused breathing is because it's going to switch you from alert and focused to rest and digest, or healing pathways. And in that practice of NSDR, so NSDR could also be like you laying down and just like listening to binaural beats and breathing intentionally, or you sitting up and breathing intentionally. But it's actually you just taking 10 minutes to focus on your breathing, get into a parasympathetic state. And then in this, we're going to add little parameters. There needs to be some form of intention setting, interpersonal intention setting, or interpersonal affirmations. So that could be, tasks that you want to complete for the week or day, or month, things that you've been working on, thoughts that you've been having, affirmations that you want to have about your character, or things that you want to be disciplined about. And so it's just taking 10 minutes to focus on these things that are very important to you, so that you can actually ingrain them, or I should say, start to download them into your subconscious, so that when you are sleeping or when you are going throughout the day, they will arise at some moment. And you will just have to make sure that you're checking in on that. So that's
And
going to be the first protocol. Go
yeah,
ahead.
and then before we continue, like the scorecard isn't for you to like feel bad, like, oh, I didn't do it today. Oh, I didn't get my full 10 minutes. It's a record for you to see, okay, I did it today. How did I feel after? Or, oh, I was only able to do 5 minutes, but at least I got something in. At least I did try. At least I made an effort towards trying to better myself. And it gets back to what I was talking about with the failure and the errors. Like, we can't beat ourselves up when we make mistakes. It's there to just so that way we know, okay, I didn't do it well. At least I have a record of it. I didn't do it. Now I know, okay, 3 out of the 5 days this week I did it, and then next week I'm going to try to do 4 out of 5, and then the next week I'm going to try to do 5 out of 5. Like, and I bring up 5 because I don't do it on Saturdays and Sundays, because I know me and how I work disciplinary wise, that if I try to do it 7 days a week, I would burn myself out. Those 2 days off helps me just kind of reset. Doesn't mean I don't think about it. I actually think about it a lot now, but I just don't make the conscious effort of going into my journal or scorecard and trying to keep it that way.
For sure.
But
I
continue.
really like those caveats. Okay, the second bit on the scorecard is no technology for the first hour or the last hour of the day. The time frame is up to consideration. So if it's 30 minutes for you to start, or if it's 10 minutes for you to start, it doesn't have to necessarily be an hour. I like to do an hour.
And then you can build up to that hour, like I was talking about. You only did 30 minutes to
right.
Now I did
Again,
an
we
hour,
come back to this theme of like training, right? So you're constantly
Yeah.
training yourself to be where you want to be. This is my personal scorecard, so I'm going to speak on my behalf. So no technology for the first hour or last hour of the day. And the reason why I chose no technology to go on there was because it really allows me time and space to just be open to the things that will arise from inside.
And so what do you mean by no technology? Like no phone whatsoever, no watch, no clocks, no nothing, and you're spending time doing yoga or meditating? Or is it like no social media, no apps that are like, because like I first thing in the morning I'll go into the optimization chart and I'll write down something, but that's technology, but I don't see that as something that is taking away from me trying to hone in on my optimization.
That is a great question. And the way that I'm going to respond to that is do not use technology that will grab your attention. So don't, or here's another way of phrasing it. Do not use technology that will refract your attention, right? The purpose of this parameter in the scorecard is you want to fully be present in whatever you're doing. And a lot of times when we're on the phone, I'm getting instant sensory data that's changing my behavior or changing my emotional state, and it's not allowing me to actually settle in or to rise up to what I have planned for that day. Right?
Yeah, it's immediate exterior. What is it? Like immediate exterior stimuli, and it's like, man, you gotta sit with yourself for a little bit.
Exactly.
Every day, whether it's in the morning or the night, you pick, or both, or but you got to spend some time with your thoughts and what you have planned for the day, because you're right. Like as soon as you go on social media and I see something about the game the night before, then that's what my mind's thinking about, and it's like, and then so now I've got a stimulus that's taking away from my productivity and of my emotional state, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and it's really important because it allows you time and space to like work on the intention setting. And here's where like habit forming and habit stacking, which we haven't really talked about, but habit stacking is where you take one habit and then you put another habit that you want to complement to on top of it. So for example, my 10 minutes of focused breathing could be first thing in the morning, right? And then my 10 minutes of no technology could be first thing in the morning, and then bang, bang, I'm done. Right?
Boom, boom. Yeah.
I'm done. 2, boom, easy.
That's like walking the dog and getting your light viewing kind of thing.
Perfect, right? Exactly. So you're taking that obvious, attractive, easy, satisfying habit that you want to take on, and you're stacking it with another obvious, easy, focused habit that you want to implement.
Yeah, I could argue you could do all three at one time.
Exactly. So this is why we want to actually make it like super easy, super beneficial, and you'll see the results over time. And I really want like people who are actually going to try this to be conscious of the way that it makes them feel. So again, we go to that scorecard, which is, am I alert? Am I calm? Am I in a good state? Am I in a bad state? Am I interoceptive? Am I exteroceptive? Right? Okay, moving on to number 3. Number 3, setting your internal clocks. Lex, I'll let you talk about this because you have been really hyped on about it for the past weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big difference in just my day to day. Like I feel like, and I'll explain it, but I feel like my work bouts are more structured, where it's like I know that at 9 o'clock I'm gonna be like ready to go with my clients, like and then I know that I'm gonna need like an hour in between, half hour, to kind of reset myself before I go to the gym, and so everything's kind of regimented. But so the light viewing, right? We have photoreceptors, and I'm pretty sure I've talked about it in one of the previous episodes a little bit. But we have photoreceptors in our eyes that have nothing to do with vision, and their only service to ourselves is to let us know how much light is out there, right?
Is
And then
around us.
so
Yeah.
our that is surrounding us, and so our eyes, like low angled light in the morning, helps us release cortisol and helps us solidify that, which is involved in setting our circadian clock, because our brains, our bodies do function in this 24-hour time period. And if you can learn to take advantage of that, then you can really set yourself up for success and for being able to hold yourself accountable and disciplined into these certain things. And then so all you need is really 2 to 5 minutes, depending on the intensity of light, maybe 10, maybe 30 if it's like if you're like in Alaska and it's a cloudy day or something, but like I'm in Florida, you're in Texas, like the sun's always shining pretty much. It's pretty bright even on winter days, like, and you'll be surprised how many lux, which is just the measurement of how much light is in your surrounding area, is like way brighter than any artificial lights you can get. So it's basically get outside in the morning, like get outside, view some sunlight. You can do your 10 minutes of focused breathing, sitting there and enjoying a cup of coffee, or or after you would enjoy the coffee after you finish breathing. Or you have a dog, take your dog for a walk and just get outside and view light within the first hour to 2 hours of waking up. And that'll start to set your clock. You'll start to be able to go to sleep at more regular times, wake up at more regular times. And then now, are we trying to get the scorecard to do it light at sunrise and at sunset, right? So it's 2 to 10 minutes. I mean, we have 10 minutes on there because the more information you have about anything, the better you're going to be, and that's with anything. And so it's like the more light information you give to your um, photoreceptors, the more your brain is going to be able to set that clock. And then the more consistently you do that throughout the days, the more it becomes okay to miss a day where it's like, oh, I had to
You
go
can go out
straight
on
to
Saturday night and hit the race.
yeah, I could go out so Saturday and enjoy yourself, and you're not going to be completely wonky. But when you do stuff like that, you have to make sure you still try to fall asleep at the same time and like not mess up your clock. So it's like if I partied till 2 a.m. and I didn't go to bed till 4, and then you still want to try to wake up at your normal time, whether it's 7 or 8. And then you want to, like, even though you want to sleep all day, you still want to try to stay up until the normal time that you go to bed, 10 or 11. And then that way the next day you're not still suffering from the night before, and then your clock is getting set back to
Do you
normal.
want to talk about the melatonin release from viewing a sunset?
Yeah, so I mean, it just sets the stage, and melatonin, like people, I mean, like it's so popular to take melatonin supplements, but I think people get lost in that and think it's a sleep aid, that it helps them stay asleep, but melatonin only helps you fall asleep, and it does not help you stay asleep. And then, like, so if you're one that takes melatonin supplements and you take it and you fall asleep nicely, but then you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night and you can't go back to sleep, it's because you're not doing things that could be more beneficial for your sleep cycle and for your circadian 24-hour clock. And then so when you view light at sunset and low angled light at the end of the day, right, it basically sends signals to your brain to start releasing melatonin and start doing other things that are involved with getting to sleep and staying asleep. And um like and we could get into caffeine and like the adenosine, and like so like caffeine doesn't necessarily give you energy, and this is a short caveat. It more like the more adenosine we have in our brain, the more basal levels that we have, the more tired we feel. And then so caffeine, all it does is just comes in and blocks
Well,
adenosine from
blocks those
attaching to
receptors.
certain receptors, so we don't feel tired. It's not that it gives us more energy; it just takes the tiredness away, basically, which is interesting to think about, right? And then so it's like, if you're not doing things that help build adenosine, or if you're doing things that keep the adenosine levels low, drinking coffee later in the day, if you're doing things like that, your sleep cycle, you might be able to take some melatonin and fall asleep, but you don't have enough adenosine to stay asleep, and other things. And no, don't quote me on all this because I'm still a novice
Go
in
do your
learning
own
all of it.
research. Yeah.
But go do your own research, and don't go quoting me to your teachers and be like, they said this and that. We're talking about these certain topics, so hopefully it piques interest into your mind, so you go do it for yourself. You go talk about it with your friends and
Yes.
discuss it, because that's
And
all Alec
then
and I are doing, is just discussing these ideas.
absolutely. And then that leads us to the last bit of the scorecard. So the last one on the scorecard is one interoceptive journal entry. And this is where we really want to focus on identity and bringing in all those things that you were doing in intention setting and affirmations in that morning. It could be in the middle of the day you're journaling. It could be at the end of the day or in the morning as well. And this is a great way for you to knock all 4 of those things out first thing when you wake up. Or you can do 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon or at night before you go to sleep. And the things that you're going to have on that journal entry are just the date, the theme or topic of that journal entry. And then for me, it's minimum 5 sentences. So it could be, doesn't really matter. It's just an interoceptive journal entry. So it could be about, again, how I'm feeling, what made me feel this way, and then things that I'm working towards, or, kind of peeling back the internal onion as to, the triggers or mechanisms or struggles.
I was thinking about this all day. I don't know why I couldn't get it off my mind, or I don't,
Right.
or I know why, and this is why it's so important to me, and why I'm constantly thinking about it, because I'm excited about it, or and it's just learning how to get your thoughts out on paper. Because I was actually having a conversation with a close friend where she was like, I just don't know how to get it out on paper. Like, I look at the journal and I'm just like, I have all these thoughts in my head and I just don't know where to start. And it's like, it's just getting one idea
Word vomit.
out. Exactly. And that's what I do mostly. Like, I mean, for me recently, like, I just open the journal and like, I just kind of throw up on the page, and like, I'm not worried about how many sentences, as long as I write one thing. It could, if that's the only thing that's on my mind, then I'll leave it at that. But if I've got a lot, then I'll just try to get it all out as best I can and as succinct as I can, so I can understand it when I come back. But it's like, so I would say not really have a requirement of yourself on how much to write. Have more of a requirement on it. You just get one thought out. However long it takes you to get that thought out, it could be 3 words. I did not, or I guess that's 4. I did not feel well today. 6 words,
Right.
5 words. I can't count. But
and here's why.
If that's all you did in the beginning, and then the next day, if you want to add, here's why I didn't feel good yesterday, then that's cool. You can just keep adding on to it, and then like, all it is we're just trying to get you started.
Yeah, we're trying to help.
Started tracking.
The way I explain it to Alexia is like, you want to build that relationship with your internal voice, and writing is a beautiful way to do that. Very therapeutic, very psychologically healthy. It allows you to process things much easier, and then you can use that calm, alert, good, bad, interoceptive, exteroceptive, conscious understanding as to a way to do that. So that is the scorecard. Just to go over really quick, 10 minutes of focused breathing or NSDR with intention settings and affirmations. No technology for X amount of time, first part of the day or last part of the day. Most importantly, obviously during the day, we want you to have technology. It's a great tool. Setting that internal clock
as a tool.
Yeah, setting your internal clock with light exposure, making sure that you're viewing the sunrise and the sunset. And then last little bit, interoceptive journal entry with the date, a theme, a topic, and at least one thought. And that would conclude our identity scorecard. And then we really want you guys to just do it consistently, and then come back with data points so that you can either write about it or let us know how it works. This is something that we're consciously doing, and we're trying to just build good habits around, because long term, whether I'm broke on the streets or whatever, or millionaires living in a penthouse, hopefully I'll be sharing some wealth in the future. I'm still going to be doing these things. So it really doesn't matter.
Exactly. It shouldn't stop where whatever facet of life you get into,
Exactly.
And I think that doing these things will prevent you from being a bum on the streets,
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully we'll I guess we'll find
but
out
again,
one day.
It comes back to rewiring your internal compass so that you can constantly make better decisions and continuously optimize for your own personal life.
and see what decisions you're making. And because there's a lot of times where you don't remember what you did a week ago,
Right.
and having something that can show you and tell you, hey, you were thinking this, and be in here mentally, like, where are you at today, and you can reflect on that. A month ago I was in a really dark place, but through this constant deliberate action towards optimization of brain body function, I have found a place where maybe I'm not the happiest, but I'm peaceful, I'm tranquil, I'm serene, and
Absolutely.
so it's like with the scorecard, it's something that you shouldn't beat yourself up about if you miss a day, and it's not about comparing your scorecard to my scorecard or Alex's scorecard. It's more about like you just learning about yourself and learning, okay, I do have pretty good discipline because I can stay on this scorecard pretty easily. It's not hard. Or I really struggle with completing my scorecard every day. Like, maybe I really do need to hunker down on forming better habits and being more conscious and trying to translate that into the subconscious. And then so I would say you and I should create this scorecard through a spreadsheet, and then try to share it with as many of our peers and try to explain this as best we can. And then I think our future idea of the scorecard is for it to be on an app, and for it to be kind of part of this community thing that we're doing, or that we're talking about. And that way I can be like, oh, Alec, like, how was your morning focused breathing? Did it make you feel better? And we can start having some
Dialogue on it.
discussions about it, some
Yeah.
dialogue about what's going on. And I think that's where we want to start. But we're in the beta part of this product, of this idea, and we're just trying to brainstorm together and have these conversations so that way we can really hone in on what is going to be the most succinct way of bringing this understanding and knowledge to people, so that way they can build their blueprint for themselves and
Absolutely.
reach that brain body optimization and find the identity and the mission and just live blissful, peaceful lives, really.
Right, exactly.
Is
And I
the
think
whole
that's the
idea.
highlight of like why we're trying to accomplish all, or why we're discussing this in the first place, why we're meeting every week, is because we want to have more peaceful, pleasurable lives.
Yeah.
And one way to do that is to control all the things that you can control. And that's
Yeah.
starting with yourself.
And letting
Um,
go of what you can't control.
exactly.
And
And
then, yeah, go ahead.
and then just building that internal relationship with your inner voice, so that when you do find struggles, there's always somebody to lean on, and there's always somebody to have that soundboard with, because you are your own best friend. And I definitely think that a lot of people don't realize that, and they want to constantly seek out others for affirmation or for purpose of feeling better about themselves, when in reality you have all the tools to do that on your own.
Yeah.
And I think that's hugely important, especially with
And
building an identity, an internal identity that you're comfortable with and something that you're proud of.
and throughout, and like through this, like, we're not saying that you can't be successful in whatever way you define success, like making a lot of money or having a successful business or a good job, providing for your family, raising your kids. Like, we're saying you can't do it without this, but from my perspective, I just see so many people that do have all these successful things, and they're still unhappy with their lives. They can't find pleasure in their day to day, and they I wish it was different. I wish I felt better. My body aches. Like, I'm depressed. Like, there's all these things that, regardless of how much money they make, people with millions of dollars still feel these things. People with no money feel the best in the world, and it's like we're just trying to bridge the two, where it's like
Absolutely. That's a
there's no
huge,
gap. Where it's like we want to bring those people that like that are happy with where their lives are at, but want to make more money so that they can provide more value to the world. Or the people that do make a lot of money or have the nice job or created a successful business, whatever it is, but they're depressed or they feel like they're not getting the most out of life. We just want to help all walks of life, and
we
we
want
just
to create
like
we want to create a bottom up salient human being that is comfortable in their own skin and can take top-down information and optimize their own path. And I think that's a great way to wrap this thing up. Just a little side note, though, there is such a thing called, I can't remember what the name of it is called, but essentially it's a state where people who have big successes, and it kind of like talks about what we were talking about earlier, they end up going through depression after they, sell that company or make their target, because they don't have the internal identity piece to like know what's next, right?
And they don't understand the pain pleasure balance, and how when you receive that's a lot of dopamine when when you sell a company for $50 million. Like, I could not imagine what that would feel like. Hopefully I do one day. I understand, but it's like there's got to be some downsides to that, and if you're not aware of how to deal with that, then you're going to struggle just like any of us.
Yeah. So to wrap things up, things that we're going to cover in the scorecard are, simple forms of meditation, simple forms of journaling, understanding conscious action and behavior, and then having conversations with yourself about how your compasses are interacting with yourself. And again, we just want to build interoceptive habits that can help you change your lifestyle behaviors to become a more optimal version of yourself by being more comfortable in your own skin. And we want to do that first through identity, by things that you're being, right? So the being side of things. And then you can translate that into what you're doing and then move into a direction of becoming. Character traits and identity that help you plot the course of your own life and take control of all of this beautiful gift that you have been blessed with, just by being alive.
Very well said. Thank you for your time, all of you listening. Thank you. Obviously, when we start publishing these, leave comments, concerns, any ideas. If we've said anything that you don't agree with, debate with us. We're here to be challenged. We're here to think differently. I'm not saying I know what's right. I'm trying to figure out what's right through these conversations.
We're on the same path of evolution as everybody else, whether you're sitting in a conference room owning $1 million company, $1 trillion company, or you're sitting at home in your living room talking to a homie on the interweb, right?
Yeah.
We're just trying to plot out this existence. All right, dude.
Share it.
That's a wrap. You've been amazing. Stay blessed, stay amazing, and we'll get that scorecard going so we can get that done. All right, take care.
Peace.